Good start. Just realised I'm on mute. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Salesbuildr Unplugged. It's that time of the week again. It's every Thursday at 3 p.m. UK time, or depending on where you're watching in the world. My name is Ryan, and I'm filling in for our usual host, James, who's taking some well-deserved R&R this week. Today, as you may have seen, I'll be joined by Martijn, Salesbuildr's COO, talking about his vast experience in the managed services space. And we also have Head of Customer Success, Bram, who'll be bringing us his insights from the front line. So without further ado, let's welcome in Martijn. Martijn, welcome.
Hey, Ryan. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Yeah, quite enjoying being the virtual host for 1 week only.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I guess it's a bit new for you as well, right?
But, it is, yeah. This is definitely James's bag, but it's nice to give it a go.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, so let's start by doing a quick introduction, who you are, what your role is, and what a typical day of the life looks like for you at Salesbuildr.
Okay. Yeah, so my name is Martijn van der Schaaf. I have a background mostly in technology. Owned an MSP for 30 years, which I started in 2003. And back in those days, it was still common to just bill per hour, right? Plain services per hour. And the reason why I started the business, because I thought that model was a bit weird, because it basically meant that if I had such a company and I would be managing a customer's network properly, I would probably earn less than when I sort of did it half and would be able to write some hours on fixing the problems that I probably caused myself, right? So there was a weird incentive in the model that was my opinion about it. So I thought about having a fixed price approach where the responsibility and the risk bearing would move from basically the end customer to the IT provider.
Yeah.
That was also the time when tools like what's it called, PC Anywhere and a little bit of RDP was introduced and becoming more common. So, we could also do some stuff remote. And that's basically how it started. And that grew out to be one of the first managed service providers. The word didn't exist then, or at least it wasn't used for IT companies. And it was pretty successful. And I grew that company to about 25 FTE, a couple million in revenue. More than 80% was recurring services, so it was a solid service business with small customers, large customers. So one of our bigger customers was a Dutch hearing aid chain, which started with up and about 20 shops when we started to do their IT. And like 5-6 years later, they had 1,600 shops throughout Europe. And they all worked on one big central IT environment. So we managed, basically we built the whole environment and managed the whole thing. So that was pretty cool. Having those sorts of customers. And I sold that business in 2016. What we also did during the years of having the MSP was basically build our own PSA. So when I started the business, I figured I needed something for recurring billing. So I didn't want to copy and paste my Word invoices every month and change the date and so on. So I started looking, and there was no accounting system that had a subscription module like you have today. So we built something like that ourselves. And of course, we needed to put all our customers in that system. And the next thought was, we're not going to charge for time, but we're going to charge fixed prices. So it still makes sense to have some idea how much time we actually spend delivering the services so we can calculate our profits, right? So we added time registration. And then in 2009, we were one of the few MSPs that acquired Kaseya, which was basically one of the first or one of the front runners in remote management. And then we decided to integrate with that as well, because we charge our services per device. So, we basically had automated per device billing already in, 2010, something like that. Later on, we integrated with backup providers. We integrated with, what else did we have? Active Directory. So we could also bill per user in an automated way. And we also used that for security purposes. So, it was our own PSA, and we wanted to prevent people that, like, as an example, were just fired, could still file a ticket with us and get help from support restoring their account, stuff like that. So we integrated that as well. So we had a fairly solid PSA system for ourselves. It also had project management. It had, billing, of course, contract management, a little bit of quoting. And the entire billing process was pretty straightforward because of that system. So when I sold the MSP, I figured that maybe there were more companies, more MSPs out there that would benefit from such a system. Meanwhile, systems like Autotask and ConnectWise were, gaining market share, and were also active in our area. But I discovered soon that those were, sometimes a bit cumbersome and complex to use, and not always a good fit for MSPs, especially the ones that were just starting out automating parts of their back office. So that was the reason for starting my next business, which is called Computicate, which was a new style PSA system meant for IT companies with, let's say, 5 to 50 FTE that were either new to PSA or wanted to switch away from one of the bigger systems because it didn't fit their needs. And our main thing with that system was billing automation based on consumption and usage. And the second big thing was automatic time registration. So I think this is still one of the big challenges inside MSP's operations, is the ability or inability to see how much time you actually spend delivering a specific service or helping a specific customer and so on. Like back in the days, it was pretty straightforward, right? You hired an engineer, gave him a lease car, and he would go to some customer for a full day or a half day, and that's what you built. And that was the end of the story. And nobody really cared if, which ticket exactly did you cover and so on. But now that same engineer is covering, multiple tickets, maybe 50 a day for dozens of different customers. They all have different agreements, different SLAs, different rates, and so on. And one of our strong points was automating that. So if you would create a ticket in Computicate, it would automatically apply the right SLAs and rates and so on, and tell you which systems were being managed and which ones were not, and also the time would automatically be recorded, so you could see exactly how much time you spent on a specific service, on a specific device, on a specific end user, customer, and so on. So we were building that, and was going pretty well. We had customers in the Netherlands, in the UK, US, a few in Australia.
How many did you have at Computicate at this point?
Up and around 50, something like that, at the peak.
Nice.
Yeah, it was pretty nice, and also challenging because, especially with the localizations and the more complex taxing schemes, especially in the USA. With some customers, doing business on the border of 3 other states and areas, having to basically, do all sorts of complex stuff with tax filing. So, but we grew that company for a few years, and then we were approached by Acronis because they were interested in acquiring such technology. And well, one of the main reasons for me to start the business was to try and have as many customers and MSPs in the world use the system, right? I thought that was a pretty cool idea. It wasn't even like, let's build a business and sell it for tons. It was just that idea to build something for the community. And the idea, because they have a huge ecosystem of MSPs, and the idea to merging, selling the company to them, joining them, and basically rebuilding the entire front end as a fully integrated part of their platform was pretty interesting. So ultimately, we pulled the trigger on that and decided that would be a great way to move forward. Acronis is I think one of the few, if not the only, MSP focused organization that owns a single platform which allows you to manage everything in a single pane of glass. So this has been sort of the single pane of glass story has been the strong topic for over the past few years with many MSP vendors, but so take, I don't know, Kaseya, Datto, or even ConnectWise. ConnectWise is, of course, building one right now, but it's not there yet. Kaseya has something called IT Complete, but in fact, it's just different systems, dangling under a single sign-on system. End of the day, it's not one platform, and therefore the functionality between different systems and modules will never elevate the options that their APIs have, because they also need to rely on their APIs. So having all that in one platform with one database, one access layer, and so on is pretty powerful. And I think they did a really amazing job on that. And it's also what was really, really cool to see is how it took off. So we delivered that system, and without doing any marketing push or anything, we just turned on that option in the platform, and within 2 weeks we had, I think it's almost a few hundred, like 200-300 customers enabling the platform and start using it. So that was pretty amazing to see the strong of system.
And were people coming from other PSAs to turning on Acronis' version of Computercate, or were they MSPs that weren't using the PSA before, or was it a bit of a mix?
Yeah, it was a mix, because what's also interesting is that when, like in the Western world, when we take a look at the PSA market, or like in general the MSP space, we always focus on the English-speaking and English-tolerant countries, which of course makes sort of sense. But the reality is that there are there's a huge part of the world, much larger than the countries that we service today with PSA systems, that don't even know what a PSA system is, or an RMM. They never heard of it. Like if you go to Japan, they don't know what an RMM system is. They have an RMM, but it's mostly in-house built stuff. So there are large, and like even if you go to Italy, with a PSA system that only supports English, maybe the MSP will be able to work with it, but they cannot make it customer facing, because their customers, what do you want me to do with an English system? I want it Italian. And the same goes for France, the same goes for Germany, and the same goes. So, and Acronis has a large part of their customer base is like in South America and Japan, Asia Pacific, and many countries also in Europe that are not primarily English tolerant. And that's why if you look at the PSA market, on one side it's sort of a red ocean with huge vendors sort of basically dividing the cake 50-50. But on the other side, if you look at it from a worldwide perspective, it's a huge blue ocean, in fact. And I think that's the reason why in this specific ecosystem, it worked so well, and still is. Yeah.
Understood. Yeah. Okay, nice. So then at Acronis, what were you responsible for there? And that was then what led you into where you are now, right? So if we talk a little bit about that final step, so your transition from Acronis to Salesbuildr.
Yeah. Look, the acquisition and what followed was also quite interesting, because basically I went from going from a bootstrapped sort of startup situation to a very, well, not extremely large like in Microsoft, but fairly big organization.
Yeah.
Huge engineering department. So these guys, like if it goes to engineering, that these guys are really amazing. So, but it was a sort of a paradigm shift for me, going from this very tiny setting to this huge organization. So it was a huge learning curve, but also, well, very interesting to see. Also to see such a huge R&D operation where hundreds of people are working on different parts of a huge platform all at the same time, and that being orchestrated in such a way that you know, every month this results in a timely release of new features and improvements and so on. It was, I learned so many stuff there. It's just, I cannot even start telling. So that was a pretty interesting thing. And soon after I joined, I was basically in charge of course, my own product and making sure it got built in a proper way, and that we were able to launch the Acronis version of the product, which is, by the way, it's called Acronis Advanced Automation. From there, I switched to becoming responsible for the product strategy of all the MSP-facing products. So the interesting thing was that Acronis has a lot of products that are meant to resell to end customers. So the sell-through products like backup, antivirus, EDR, XDR, those kinds of things. But the products that I was responsible for had a completely different sales motion. You know, we were selling to the MSP, which requires a different approach, different communication. So it's not like, here's our data sheet that you can show to your customers so they can buy our PSA, right? You know, that doesn't make sense. So I became responsible for that. Also have a strategy to basically get the best out of both worlds. So if you open a ticket in automation, you can on the second tab, you can see all the real-time system statistics of the system that is impacted, related to that ticket, stuff like that, which was really cool. So why and how I switched. I knew Victor for a few years already, and I knew what he was doing, and we stayed in touch over the years, and saw how Salesbuildr was, you know, taking off and really solving one of the big pains, today's pains for MSPs. And well, we started talking, and there were new growth ambitions, and the organization was getting bigger, more professional, and he was basically looking for a COO. And, you know, having worked in such a large organization was a really great experience, but at the same time, it's also a bit more, you know, distant from the actual customers and the actual, you know, you're not always, well, you're mostly not in the driver's seat of stuff, right?
It can be a bit departmentalized, maybe.
Exactly.
You're quite siloed into a specific, which makes sense because everyone's got to wear their hat. But I'm sure what you're about to say is it's nice to wear a few different hats in a smaller place, right? And that's certainly how I feel.
And look, it just sounded like a really cool opportunity to build something that really makes a difference for customers, and I saw what was already there, and how it worked, and how like incredibly fast the platform is, like responsive, and creating these really slick quotes, having this crazy efficient search engine for like millions of products coming directly from the distributor inventory and so on. So yeah, this made me realize what a cool opportunity this would be to join and build out. So yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, so here I am now.
Yeah, well,
I think almost 3 months. End of the month. It's 3 months past I started.
Yeah, well, it's been fantastic to have you so far, and
thank you.
Given the history you've just covered, the value you've got and the knowledge of the MSP space is pretty vast, and obviously your time as MSP head of product strategy for MSPs, you must have some really good insights into how the landscape has changed and what potentially might happen in the next 5-10 years, maybe. Have you got some notes around that, maybe?
Yeah, I do, of course. Look, and much will probably or hopefully sound familiar, but well, one of course is the increased demand for cybersecurity services. It's sort of the main story that I see passing on my LinkedIn timeline from different angles. Well, mostly fed by vendors, of course, which is sort of normal. It also makes it a bit like, is this a commercial or is it really true? But the main story is we are not doing enough with cybersecurity, and while that is true and needs to be solved with NIS2 knocking on the door, it's becoming sort of a mandatory thing, right? You can no longer afford to tell your customer, hey, I think you should install a backup, and then customer says, nah, I think it's too expensive, and then walk away, and then be fine. You'll be liable. You can be held liable if it's not. You basically have to let them sign a waiver. You offered me backup, and I refuse, and I understand the possible consequences and so on. And like there are actually examples of lawsuits in the Netherlands where MSPs get sued and are held liable for damages because they didn't advise certain solutions explicitly enough. It's happening. So this is one. The other one is expansion of cloud and hybrid IT management. There's also sort of a change going from per device to per user management, especially with all the cloud services. But this is all known. This is going on for quite a while. One interesting development that we see, which might drip down to SMBs as well, is that large enterprises are moving certain parts of their cloud infrastructure back to infrastructure they own, because they figured out that, well, back in the days when cloud was on a rise, sort of the underlying promise was, this is so scalable and this is so large, you can never run this compute power by yourself for cheaper. And now we all found out that that's not always true, and it's not always necessary to have certain parts of your infrastructure on an availability and scalability that cloud providers offer. So you see that motion where large enterprises are moving at least parts of their infrastructure back. So with that, give it a few years, there will be more hybrid infrastructures that need to be managed. And in line with that, you of course have the automation of routine tasks, like with RPA systems, or even expanding and investing more in RMM systems to automate common tasks. This is also something that's been going on for years, but with the upcoming of newer and more advanced RPA systems, you will see a advancement in that, and also with the application of AI, where I do not believe that AI will, on the short term, take actual work out of our hands. It will help us to do our jobs better. And a simple example is that I know that certain vendors are applying AI, for instance, on their reporting. So option one is I come into the office on Monday morning, I log into my backup system, and I run a report, and it gives me 52 pages of machines that have a patch missing or missed their backup schedule or whatever information of whatever warning there is. So today I'll be, if I'm thorough in my work, I would be going through all these pages and checking what needs to be done. But with an AI engine, it could basically summarize that report and tell you, hey, you have these three systems that constantly have issues. This is what you should be focused on. So consolidation of information with the use of AI will help us do more in less time.
Yeah, so using AI for more automation rather than the intelligence behind it. It's more running tasks that you don't really want to do or wouldn't actually have the time to do.
Exactly, because the thing is that what's really, well, the case with many systems is that if you look specifically at reporting, what most large management, ERP, PSA systems actually do, how they interpret the reporting is, I'll just take my database table, pick a certain date range, and dump it into PDF. Here's your report.
Yeah.
Well, actually, that's not a report, right? If your CEO asks you for a report on revenue, you're also not going to give him a dump of all the, of all the quotes that you created.
It's just data, right? Yeah.
Yeah, just you figure
no
it out.
annotation.
You have a calculator on your phone. You can just easily calculate the ones. That's not how it works. So AI can definitely help with consolidating that. What I also see is that customers are demanding more focus on business outcome and aligning IT investments and initiatives with the business strategy, and less about, I just need a computer and it just needs to run, right? They expect more, and in line with that, you will also see more vertical specializations with MSP businesses that are just top-notch specialists on a certain niche of businesses. I also think that moving forward, there will be an expansion of managed services towards AI. So there will be business process systems with embedded machine learning that need to be installed, managed, monitored, and so on. And I also think that in the future there will be more organizations that run their proprietary machine learning or AI system, because there are two sides to it, to applying or using machine learning or AI. One is the technology itself that can sort of interpret the data, but more importantly is the data itself. If you own as a business, if you own, I don't know, let's say that you're an engine manufacturer and you've already been collecting data points of all the engines in, let's say, ships or cruise ships that you've been deploying, thousands of those for years, and you've been collecting data points on those engines about breakdowns or maintenance or whatever, and you can take all that data and put it in your own AI engine. It can be very valuable for your organization, and it's probably not data that you want to put in some public data set for the same purpose, right? So, and those need to be built, those need to be maintained and managed and serviced and patched and so on. So this is an opportunity for MSPs as well. And the other one is the continuous focus on consolidation. So there are a few areas in the world that where MSP M&A is a hot topic, like in the Netherlands. I'm actually also an advisor to one of the MSP buy and build organizations in the Netherlands, which is quite nice. Also in this role to also get more of a view of the market from that angle. Which companies get acquired, which ones are for sale, what kind of profile do they have. Nice to see is that many of them actually use Salesbuildr, which is really funny to see that. The bigger ones, the more successful ones, which have a sales organization and a sales motion, actually use Salesbuildr. It's really cool. But this is one of the things, and I strongly believe that once the consolidation of the market is sort of in the end of its phase, because all the small players have been bought, it will move to different countries. There will also be a consolidation phase probably on European level. So if you consolidate Dutch MSPs and French MSPs and so on, there's going to be, there's always a bigger fish. So maybe someone gets the idea, let's acquire a Dutch mega MSP and a French mega MSP and put those together. That's also one. So one of the things that I tend to advise to MSP owners is, just think about what you want to be. Do you want to buy or do you want to be bought? Because end of the day, I don't really think there's a great future for a small standalone. It's going to be really hard to stay competitive and especially on the marketing and sales side. Those, you can already see that some of these buy and build organizations, they have such a powerful marketing engine. It's really hard to do that on your own, because let's take events. Like if you acquired 10 MSPs and they are scattered around the country, you can design one event format for one event about a certain topic every month, and your entire stack of MSPs can use and rerun those same events. While you're alone, you have to do all that work for just you. And of course, it will be the same set of great events, I hope, but it's so much less efficient than in a large scale.
That being said, on the M&A, let's just stick with one. What's one green flag that smaller MSPs would want to wave in order to look attractive to a potential mega MSP buyer? What's one thing that is just like, that's a green flag?
Well, end of the day, the honest truth is that most of these organizations, the people behind it, the private equity organizations, they, without meaning to insult any of them, but they basically only look at EBITDA, earning before taxes, interest, and direct amortizations, which is the acronym. So some of them that are more experienced, they will dive into, what's the actual recurring revenue part. And once they get more experience, they will also dive into what you actually call recurring revenue. I've seen examples where MSPs that were for sale were claiming that they had a chunk of revenue which is recurring, and on top they had another chunk of revenue which they called recurring by nature. And what they meant with that was, this is like laptops and other stuff that people just keep buying and they break down, and because of that we think it's sort of a recurring thing, which of course it's plain BS, of course, but that's an example of how some people that help to sell businesses present your company. This is obviously not what you want, because once you reach due diligence, you will probably have issues about it. End of the day, those people are not crazy. Selling laptops, it's not recurring revenue, not in any way. So that will backfire on you. But if you have a niche, have 15% plus net margins, and on top have as much chunk, the bigger the chunk of your revenue which is recurring, the better. So
yes,
having that said, it makes sense actually to have a separate business entity for your one-offs. So if you sell the recurring revenue, or at least do decent bookkeeping and keeping it all separate, so you can actually see if I do, I don't know, 10 million turnover, and I sold 8 million in sound systems or SAP licenses or whatever, which is of course one-off, that you can easily see which part is recurring, which part is really recurring. So because that drives the value. That drives the value, and that gives the certainty. Another one, which is unfortunately one that I don't see a lot in real life, and definitely a thing that MSPs can improve, get those contracts signed. I see so many coming up with recurring revenue, which in fact is recurring revenue because they bill it every month, but the customer can also cancel any month. And this is really, the longer you can tie a customer to a contract, and I know some MSPs don't like the approach, but on the other side, it's a bit like, when it comes to IT, you don't buy IT to use for 1 or 2 months. You buy it to use for multiple years. So in that thought, it also doesn't make sense to hire an IT company for just a few months, unless they do a shitty job, of course. But assuming that you do a good job, it doesn't make sense. And in fact, if you just offer your customer a discount of, I don't know, 5%, 10%, if they sign for 3 years or more, and you can go to a buyer and say, hey, this is not only recurring revenue, it's signed recurring revenue, and I can just give you a breakdown of my contract operations, which will basically give you a guarantee of the revenue, the recurring revenue that will end up on your bank account once you acquire my company. And this is much stronger than going like, yeah, this is my contract base, and my customers are all so happy, and yeah, they will never go away. But on paper, in fact, they can. This is not assuring, and this will get you either a discount or a lower offer or whatever. So recurring and have it signed. That's a really strong one. Market vertical expertise. That's
definitely one that comes up a lot, and we see that in our customer base, right? The ones that are doing pretty good are not a jack of all trades. Is the saying in English. It's they master, they know what they're good at, and they do a fantastic job and provide outcomes to that sector or that industry, whatever you want to say. That's something that comes up a lot, and it's very true.
Yeah. No, that's the thing. And look, and the multiples are well, especially in this region, that they're pretty good. And the less there is for sale, this is also one thing. The more M&A activity there is, the less picky buyers will be. Some are actually, like, some funds have collected so many money from the liquidity providers that which triggers them to be so eager to buy that sometimes they're not so picky, that they're actually happy that they can add some more revenue and put some more of the money to work. This is also something that I see happening, and even I even saw like companies that we rejected for solid reasons were just bought by someone else for a huge amount. So they just take the risk. They're just fine with it. So that's what you see. So the hotter the market gets, the better for you. It's the seller's market. Absolutely.
Amazing.
Yeah.
There's some good snippets there. We'll be able to chop that up and get some good content out of that. So yeah, thanks very much for that. And finally, because we are running out of time, it's been a short hour. If we talk about one exciting upcoming feature, a sneak peek for those that are watching live with Salesbuildr?
Yeah, well, one.
Let's see how many we can do. We've got 5 minutes.
There's so many.
I want to make sure Bram gets some time.
Oh yeah. We also have Bram. Yeah. So a big one. Well, for us, but I think also for customers is VAT calculation support. Sounds pretty boring. Is boring. Nobody likes taxes, but so thus far we use Autotask and ConnectWise to calculate VAT, which is a feature they have. You can just send them a line item and they will calculate VAT based on whatever rule you have and send it back. But we also integrate with Microsoft Dynamics, and we also have our storefront module. And for that, you also need to be able to calculate VAT. So we have been building that for the last few weeks, and it's currently in test, and we hope to release it soon. And with that, you can basically configure tax calculation in a very straightforward way. But if you require to have a more granular, complex VAT calculation or sales tax calculation support, we can also do that. The other one, which is upcoming, is an integration with HubSpot. So for all the MSPs that use HubSpot, they will be able to link companies, contacts, and also opportunities. So there will be a seamless integration between the two platforms, which will be very powerful and help our customers to, become even better in marketing and sales. Another one that I'm especially excited about is integrating with the subscription marketplaces of Ingram Micro and TD SYNNEX. So today we are able to import their product and services catalog, which is sort of the static old system that they use, basically the shoving boxes sort of system. But of course, they also have their systems for ordering and managing subscriptions like Microsoft 365 or Acronis backup or EDR, whatever. So we're going to add those systems to our products and services catalog as well, so you can easily search in those. And with that, so recently we released purchase order automation for Autotask in combination with Ingram Micro. So when you sold some stuff in a quote, you can turn it into an opportunity in Autotask and automatically order those articles with Ingram Micro. It's a really cool feature. We will extend that, of course, with TD SYNNEX moving forward and with others as well. Ultimately, we will, of course, also focus on doing the same for those cloud marketplaces. And with that, what's really interesting about the cloud marketplace as well is that we're also in the back working with a few vendors to have them put like product and service info sheets into the widget templates in Salesbuildr. So it becomes really easy and straightforward to give the right, great looking information to your customers as well, without any hassle or any having to build those yourself. I think that's the list of the most exciting stuff coming up. Well, if you look at how we approach R&D in the last few months, is we always try to do a few improvements of existing functionality, add some new functionality. We also at least each sprint try to pick one or two of the items from the idea portal that are coming from customers, and in that way try to have that every release has value for all our stakeholders. So that's the approach that we're taking, and in the back, of course, also working on our processes to get better, more stable.
And of course, those releases and new features that we work on are MSP and customer led. So we have the upvote system. People can say what they want, and it's almost like it's a leaderboard, right? So things get upvoted, things get downvoted. So it's really community led, which is really nice.
Exactly. Yeah.
Amazing. Martijn, thank you so much. Yeah, like I said, some real good snippet quality there. So we'll be able to get some content out of that. But thank you so much for your time. Stick around. We'll do Bram and then we'll bring you back in for your tune of the week. Yeah, thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, now it's time for Bram's tips from the front line. Bram.
Thank you very much, Ryan.
Welcome.
Nice to be here again.
Getting to grips with bringing in the special effects. I think I've mastered it now.
Yeah, it's going great. It was right on time. I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Yeah, really good. Thank you. Really good. Okay.
Good to hear.
So, tell us what you've been seeing from the front line.
Yes. I want to, this week, I want to talk about a little something. And I'm just going to see if I'm going to be able to share my screen for that as well.
Yeah, it's the little present icon, I think.
There we go.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And
no, I think you, amazing.
Fantastic. We've got it. We've cracked it.
We've cracked the code. Exactly. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about the categories again. I think some people that are watching this more often will have probably heard me speak about the categories quite a lot. And there's a good reason for that, because the whole category structure is kind of like the beating heart of your Salesbuildr instance. And this is where you go when you want to, well, make your life a little bit easier down the road. So just very quickly recap for the people that don't know too much about this category structure is in this structure, you can add things like markup. So it automatically, once you, for instance, add an HP laptop, automatically applies the 20% over the price that you collect from the distributors. You don't have to think about that. You don't have to set that up every time. But it also applies to things like shipping, so that you can set that up beforehand. Like, let's say you just need to send a cable to a customer. That's probably, you're probably going to want to drop ship that to the customer instead of letting it go by your office first. Now, maybe for a desktop, you want to get it to your office, pre-install it for them, and then send it out to the customer. And instead of, well, thinking of that every single time that you make a quote, you want that set up beforehand. Of course, if you want to override it, then you always can on the quote. But as some of you may have heard me say before, look at the 90%. Think about what are we doing 90% of the time and set it up in that manner.
Yeah.
Now,
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So another thing that is in that category structure are the add-ons. And I want to dive into that because we just added a new feature on that I want to highlight in today's top tips. So I'm going to open the HP laptop segment. I'm going to go to the add-on section. So in here, we have two different types of add-ons. We've got required add-ons and we've got optional add-ons. Now, the required add-ons are the add-ons that are, well, as the name says, required to buy for the end customer. Meaning that the moment you put an HP laptop on the quote, automatically an HP care pack gets added, the laptop installation gets added. And the customer can't argue with that. They're just there.
Sure. Mandatory.
Exactly. Then going down, you'll see an optional add-on. So these ones are ones that have a little, well, select icon before them once you add the HP laptop on the quote. That gives the customer the possibility to add a docking station or a keyboard, for instance. So this will help you with the cross-sell and the upsell. Now, the thing that we added has to do with this little sliding icon that you see on the bottom of them. It says add to quote. Now, what this does is it helps with dictating which items you always want to have on the quote and which you want to have underlying a little bit more to the back. So I'll show you an example. I have this laptop case, 15.6 inches.
Yeah.
Is, as you see, uncrossed. Now let me just add a different laptop bag as well, just to prove my point. I'm also going to add a 17-inch laptop to it. So these are both added to this category. Then let me just find a quick laptop as an example that I'm going to add later.
Okay.
This one. So now when I make a quote, I'll say, okay, I'm going to create a quote, add the laptop.
Cool.
I'm going to create the quotes. I go to the detailed quote page.
Yeah.
Just scroll all the way down until I find the laptop. There we go. Got the laptop right here. Now you can see I've got the mandatory product here, the care pack. We've got the laptop installation. We've got the 2 products, the docking station and the keyboard and mouse sets, but you do not see the bags. When I press this button, it shows me all the things that I've added to this that is not automatically added. The reason why I would want that is because, for instance, this specific laptop is a 13.5-inch. I'm going to select the smallest laptop case that I have, this one. I'm going to add that to the quote. If I have a bigger laptop, I might want to select the 17-inch laptop, but I don't want them both to appear on the quote every single time.
No, of course.
Same goes, I see a lot of customers using this for care packs. You can have quite a few different care packs. So sometimes a customer, you would want to have those listed there and then just select the right care pack for that customer.
Nice.
There's actually a feature that's also quite a few of our customers had asked for. It's also from that feature request page that you mentioned earlier.
Nice.
Yeah, quite a few customers asked for this. So I hope, well, people who requested this are going to be happy with it.
Yeah, nice. It makes a lot of sense. Like you said, you don't want to have a bag or an add-on that doesn't quite fit that product, but that product is in a category, so you don't really want to go too granular because things might get a little bit too convoluted. But this is a really, really nice way to fix that missing gap and make sure things aren't missed, right?
You could also make like 1,000 different categories, one saying, oh, HP 15-inch, HP 17-inch, and then build that list all the way down. Sure, you could, but that's gonna probably take a lot more time than just this click. Nice.
No, I like that. That's really cool. Yeah, and I love the banging the message about standardization, right? It's what we lead with in the marketing. So from the go-to-market position, and then when MSPs do become a customer, standardize. It all starts with the categorization and the standardization. So yeah, we can never reinforce that message enough.
Exactly. Repetition is key.
It sure is. Yeah, and keeping things simple and structured.
Absolutely.
Amazing. Right. Well, thank you so much, Bram. Stick around. We'll bring back Martijn. If I can add him back to the stage. There he is. Fantastic. Okay, Martijn, it's time for Tune of the Week.
Yeah, that one.
Here we go. Okay, special effects again. Okay, let's present. Share screen. Window. Okay. Let's hope this works. Okay, Martijn, do you want to explain what your tune of the week is and why you chose this tune as tune of the week?
Yeah, look, it was kind of hard to pick something because I have so many songs and stuff in my playlist that there's not one favorite, but this one, well, apart from the fact that it's like pretty mainstream, what I really think is interesting about this track is that it's crazy old. it's almost 20 years old, and maybe some people don't realize, but it was released in November 2004 by British guy Michael Gray. He didn't produce too many like big hits or so, but this one, well, it's still a banger today. It's just such a well-produced dance track that even with today's standards, it still holds up. And I thought, well, let's just go for this one. I actually stumbled upon it a few days ago, and I thought, oh yeah, this track, it still sounds amazing. So yeah, that's basically why.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm pretty sure there's still DJs and producers now doing various remixes of this track, and I do remember this song being on in the car when I was being driven around by my parents. So it is an old one, but a gold one. So let's get into it. Tell me if the sound works.
Yep.
I'm working all week long. I dream of days away. I wanna sing my song. So let the music play. I got to get my kids and fly tonight. When the clock sings on Friday night, I need to blow it all away. I can't wait for the weekend to begin. I can't wait for the weekend to begin. I'm making what I can.
There we go. As always, it'll be added to Salesbuildr Unplugged on Spotify. Go find it. And yeah, I like the song. Can't wait for the weekend to begin. It's been a long week, but one more day.
Just hold on,
guys.
Ryan. You've got this.
Thank you so much to both. Yeah, that's all. Thanks a bunch.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.